We tested the Klipscha R120SW active subwoofer a few weeks ago. The testing took place in a renovated family house in Telke, Pest County. One of our company's repeat customers was keen to know more about the performance of the Klipscha subwoofer freshly purchased for his home cinema, and invited us to his home for testing. The owner, C. Thomas Schicksai Horvath, is gradually developing his home cinema system. Corner bass traps, ceiling and wall-mounted diffuser and front acoustic panels provided the ideal sound for the room. In order to achieve a real cinematic experience, we have proposed to place acoustic curtains in front of the large window surfaces to further improve acoustics, and create the required darkness for the cinema room with special woven home textiles. Klipscha has been manufacturing speakers since 1946, so they are not beginners in this matter. The side of the 120SW speaker box is about half a meter long, and the 30 cm wide subwoofer has a brass color. The MDF speaker housing is covered in black glossy vinyl, which is scratch resistant and also keeps fingerprints away, which is a very pleasant surprise, as it makes it even easier to keep the speaker clean. The reinforced box reduces unpleasant resonances almost completely. Rubber feet protect the parquet from scratches. The rigid, lightweight, concave, copper vaporized membrane, IMG injection molded graphite subwoofer is powered by a 400-watt digital amplifier. The LED on the front panel indicates if the subwoofer is on or off. That significantly reduces turbulence and distortions, a frequency control, power and other buttons, as well as a phase changer. The L/R line for stereo amplifiers and the LFE connectors for AV amplifiers are also located on the back, and frequency can also be adjusted. The frequency transmission is 29-120 Hz, the power is 200/400 watt, the maximum sound pressure is 116 decibels. Large black spikes guarantee complete insulation from the floor. The minimalist design is eye-catching and fits easily into virtually any room with any style and furnishings. The speaker weighs 14 kilograms, which may make it feel a little heavy. If we had to score the design, we would clearly give 5 out of 5 points. We started testing the subwoofer with classical music. We listened to the song Toreador from Bizet's Carmen 3/4 act opera. The Klipscha subwoofer performed wonderfully. We could hear full-bodied, powerful and clear bass tones, the wind and other instruments sounded also perfect, witnessed an incredible faithful sound, at the same time a little too controlled, but it didn't spoil the other frequency ranges. Then we put on some more recent music, and were not disappointed how Dua Lipa's hit Physical sounded. The bass tones radiated by the subwoofer were penetrating, natural, and no distortions noted at high volumes. Subwoofers usually play a very decisive role in home cinema's performance, therefore, we shall be cautious when choosing one. Following the audio test, we screened the movie Aquaman from 2018 starring the matinee idol Jason Momoa. The sounds of Klipscha's subwoofer gave a perfectly realistic feeling winding us too. The splashing of water sounded as naturalistic as in real life, as if the protagonist had jumped into the water in our immediate vicinity. The soundtracks and sound effects were also absolutely clear and detailed. Beautiful and balanced basses made us become active participants of the adventure. The sound of the Half-Blood Prince, a Harry Potter movie from 2009, was colored and crystal clear with wonderful soundtracks, and the subwoofer did not overwhelm the mid and treble tones. Overall, the Klipscha subwoofer is a very attractive, high-performance, fair accessory for home theaters. Basses are full, realistic and controlled, so they don't spoil the other frequencies. Absolutely worth the price. If it were to be evaluated, we would give it a score of 4.9 points on a scale of 1-5. Like always, hope everyone is doing well. Today we are going to be taking a look at a subwoofer that, quite frankly, sounds just about as good as it looks. The bass hits heavy, it gets plenty loud, and put simply, is downright beautiful. So without further ado, this is the Klipscha R120SW subwoofer review. So I alluded to this in the intro, but one of the main draws to this subwoofer, I feel, is its looks. Now of course sound is the thing that's most important when it comes to things you should look for, but looks can matter too, especially if you want something that'll complement the look of your room nicely. This is one instance where I feel that that's exactly the case here. Taking a look at the enclosure, what's immediately apparent even with the grille on, is the elegant looking black textured wood grain vinyl that sits atop the reinforced MDF cabinet. Now I personally love this for two reasons. One, it obviously looks really cool and gives the sub a more nuanced look. But more importantly too, because of the fact that the material is textured and not smooth, fingerprints are essentially mitigated, meaning you really don't have to worry as much about getting smudges all over your new sub. I can't state the importance of that enough, given that that's definitely something I'm familiar with when it comes to some of the audio equipment I have. As much as I love a lot of my speakers and subs, having to wipe them off due to fingerprints whenever I'm doing adjustments or moving them does get a little tiring, so this is a welcome bonus. This isn't to say it's entirely fingerprint proof or anything, just that the material lends itself well in that regard. It also claims to be scratch resistant too, which is pretty cool, especially if you're one that cares about actually preserving the look of your sub, so that's definitely nice. The grille itself is pretty simple, with a small metallic Klipsche logo up at the top. When it's removed, however, the look completely changes. What immediately sticks out with it removed is the large copper spun woofer with 8 similarly colored rivets dotted around it. In my opinion, this has to be one of the most beautiful subwoofers I've ever personally seen. Pictures certainly don't do it justice, because in person, it's definitely a statement piece. It's actually hard to describe though, since the material isn't necessarily shiny, but it's not dull either. It just catches light in a way that makes you want to look at it. Now for some rooms this might be a great thing because it'll add a layer of flair and personality to the setting, but for others, it might be a bit too loud in a sense, figuratively speaking of course, not the actual sound, so they may prefer leaving the grille on. I just think it's great you have the option of either leaving it on or off, because it definitely offers a measure of duality in a sense, giving two very distinct looks depending on your preference. The small metallic Klipsche emblem at the top of the sub itself is also a small, albeit cool touch that adds to the overall aesthetics. In summary, I think it's a really beautiful design that honestly looks great, feels sturdy, and has the ability to both stand out or blend in depending on whether the grille is left on or not. When it comes to features and specs, there's actually quite a bit to like about this particular sub. The first thing of note that's extremely important is the high excursion spun copper injection molded graphite (IMG) woofer. What? There's definitely a lot to unpack in just that one sentence for sure, so let's dig in. Excursion by definition is basically how far the cone of a speaker driver can travel linearly from its resting position and back without actually damaging itself. The more it's able to move, the louder it can get without distortion. So in this case, the fact that it's a high excursion subwoofer means that it can output deep bass at a substantial sound level, since the cone can actually move a lot. Another important part of good sound is the cone material itself, and in this case, the Klipsche 120SW has a spun copper IMG, injection molded graphite woofer, which has the unique ability of being light yet remaining extremely rigid. This reduces any warping or flexing of the cone at higher volumes, allowing it to output a much cleaner sound overall. There's also an all-digital built-in amplifier that's efficient, while being able to deliver an ample amount of power to the sub that remains true to the source material. Some amplifiers can alter the sound slightly, so for the audio purists out there, you may be happy to find that this isn't the case here. Speaking of power though, this thing has an appreciable amount with a 200 watt listed RMS and 400 watt peak, with a max acoustic output of 116 decibels. There's also gain, phase, and low passover controls, meaning you'll be able to adjust the bass so it blends with your other speakers and gives you a cohesive